Hello everyone, it's Mr. Edmund here. Welcome to the fourth and final lesson of the acids and alkalis topic. This one is about making salts. If you don't have one already, please go and grab a pen and a piece of paper so you can make notes and do any tasks as we go through. This is your learning journey, so feel free to pause the video and write that information down. So, salt. In everyday English, salt is what you put on your chips, right? However, in science, a salt is a broad term for any metal chemically joined to a non-metal or a combination of non-metals. So the chemical name for what you put on your chips is sodium chloride. So sodium chloride is a type of salt, but there are lots and lots of other salts. Other salts are magnesium chloride, copper sulfate, and calcium nitrate. So neutralization, we've got some general word equations coming up on the next couple of slides. For an acid with an alkali, we've got acid plus alkali, arrow, salt plus water. The products of neutralization of an acid with an alkali, you need to be able to start to predict these. So this information is important. Hydrochloric acid produces a chloride, for example, magnesium hydroxide plus hydrochloric acid, arrow, magnesium chloride plus water. Sulfuric acid produces a sulfate. For example, sodium hydroxide plus sulfuric acid makes sodium sulfate. So here you've got hydrochloric makes a chloride, sulfuric makes a sulfate. Yeah, the clues are in the names, it's quite useful. Nitric acid makes a nitrate. Calcium hydroxide plus nitric acid, arrow, calcium nitrate plus water. Feel free to pause and write those down. Yeah. Okay, predicting the products of neutralization. Copy and complete the following word equations. So you've got your word equations on the left here. Feel free to pause the slide and copy those down and tell me what the products will be. And as a stretch and challenge, why don't you write your own equations and then send them in to your teacher to test them. All right, here are the answers. Potassium hydroxide plus sulfuric acid makes potassium sulfate and water. Sodium hydroxide plus hydrochloric acid makes sodium chloride and water. Magnesium hydroxide plus nitric acid makes magnesium nitrate and water. Lithium hydroxide plus hydrochloric acid makes lithium chloride and water. And calcium hydroxide plus sulfuric acid makes calcium sulfate and water. So you notice there's a general pattern, right? You're making a salt and water every time. Neutralization with an oxide. We've got acid plus oxide, arrow, salt plus water. So the product of neutralization of an acid with an oxide, hydrochloric acid produces a chloride again, sulfuric makes a sulfate, and nitric makes a nitrate. And again, we've got a salt and water being produced. The only difference is instead of a hydroxide, we've got an oxide here. So have a go at those ones. Same deal. So pause the video now, I'll show you the answers on the next slide. And these are the answers. Another reaction you need to know is an acid and a carbonate. So acid plus carbonate, arrow, salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. This is an example of that reaction, and here's another one. So because of climate change or environmental collapse, the seas are becoming more acidic, and this colour change is actually due to something called coral bleaching. And actually the acid in the water is reacting with the carbonate of the coral and killing those creatures. So products of neutralization of an acid with a carbonate. Hydrochloric acid produces a chloride again, and carbon dioxide and water. Sulfuric acid makes a sulfate, carbon dioxide and water. And nitric acid makes a nitrate plus carbon dioxide and water. You notice the pattern. Here's the same sort of task again, so feel free to copy and complete those. Just pause the video. And here are your answers. You'll notice that every single one produces a salt. and the salt is dependent on the metal that's reacting and the acid, and they all make carbon dioxide and water. Okay, last type of reaction, acid plus metal makes salt, but this time instead of water, we're making hydrogen gas. And you've got zinc reacting with an acid in this photo. Sorry about the background noise. Okay, so the products of those reactions, hydrochloric acid makes a chloride again, sulfuric makes a sulfate, and nitrogen makes a nitrate. But this time we need to notice that we're making salt and hydrogen, because we don't have any oxygen going in at the start. We've just got the metal on its own. It's not joined to a hydroxide or an oxide or a carbonate. All right, when we get into symbol equations in a bit more detail, that will become clearer. Okay, so same deal. Copy and complete those word equations. Let's see how you do. And these are the answers. So for every single one, we're producing salt and hydrogen. And again, the salt depends on the metal that's going in. So sodium makes sodium. Well, sodium metal makes sodium sulfate when it's reacted with sulfuric acid. So sulfuric makes a sulfate. Hydrochloric makes a chloride. Nitric makes a nitrate. And then they're all producing hydrogen gas, not water. All right, here's a summary. This is the most important information, okay? So it'd be really good if you could write this down. So neutralization of an acid with an alkali. Acid plus alkali, arrow, salt plus water. If that's the only one you remember, I'll be happy. That's the most important one. Acid with an oxide, very similar to the previous one. Acid plus oxide, arrow, salt plus water. All right. Carbonate. Acid plus carbonate makes salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. That's the big difference for that one. And acid with a metal, we've got acid plus metal, arrow, salt plus hydrogen. So instead of water, we've got hydrogen gas. So I would suggest, if I was trying to remember these for the first time, I would memorize that one. I would just say it to myself over and over and over again. And then I've got something that I can hang the other three off, right? So I've got acid plus alkali, arrow, salt plus water. And then I can remember that with an oxide, it's the same products. I've just got an oxide instead of an alkali. With a carbonate, I need to remember that I've got carbon dioxide as well. And with a metal, I need to remember that one's a bit funny. We've got hydrogen gas being produced instead of water. Don't worry, we'll be going over these again and again throughout your school career, so please don't panic if you're not getting all of this right now. It is year 7. Filtering is something that you need to know about in science, so why not mention it here. So filtering, you can read through the instructions yourself. You can see in this picture here that we're using a piece of paper folded up, and you've got the blue water particles passing through the filter along with anything that's dissolved in it, and the red solid particles are getting trapped by the filter and they're not going through. So this is a really good way of separating solids from liquids or from solutions. Again, something we will do repeatedly in science, filtering. All right, chemical formulae of ions. This is really interesting, but it's quite in-depth. So if it's too scary, just skip this bit and go to the summary. All right. So here are some really common metal ions that we talk about in science. Lithium the formula for a lithium ion is Li+. So that's just the element symbol and a plus showing you that it's got a positive charge. Sodium's element symbol is Na, so it's Na with a little plus to show you it's positive. Potassium is K with a plus. Magnesium, however, that is the symbol, the element symbol for magnesium, but it's got a 2+ charge instead of just a 1+, so we write a little 2. And calcium also has a 2+, so it's Ca2+. And then non-metal ions, a chloride ion is just the element symbol with an electrical charge, but a sulfate is actually a combination of non-metals because you've got one sulfur atom and 4 oxygen atoms. That's what the little 4 is telling you. And that's got a -2 charge. It's got a charge of -2, so that's what the little -2 is for. Nitrate ion is a nitrogen with 3 oxygen atoms, and it's got a charge of -1. So feel free to write those ions down because I'm going to ask you to use them in the next task. So chemical formulae of salts. Positive and negative charges have to cancel out. So for example, lithium and chlorine makes lithium chloride, and you have 1 lithium atom and 1 chloride ion. Sorry, 1 lithium ion and 1 chloride ion. And you can see that the charges balance out because we've got 1 and 1, 1 positive and 1 negative, so they cancel out. However, sometimes you need different numbers of ions. So for example, magnesium ion has a charge of +2 and the chloride ion has a charge of -1. So we get MgCl2, and that's because 2 positives need 2 negatives to cancel them out. So we've got your 2+ from the magnesium, and you need 2 of your chloride ions to cancel out and make 0. So have a go at predicting the formulae of these salts: lithium chloride, sodium chloride, calcium nitrate, magnesium nitrate, calcium chloride, sodium sulfate, potassium sulfate, and sodium nitrate. So I'll show you the answers next. All right, those are the answers. Hopefully you got some of those right. If you didn't, like I keep saying, don't panic, it's year 7. Chill. All right, here's your summary slide. So salt is any metal joined to a non-metal or a combination of non-metals. Neutralization of an acid with an alkali is acid plus alkali, arrow, salt plus water. With an oxide is acid plus oxide, arrow, salt plus water. With a carbonate is acid plus carbonate, arrow, salt plus water plus carbon dioxide. And with a metal is acid plus metal, arrow, salt plus hydrogen. Thank you very much for listening. That is the end of the acids and alkalis topic.